We turn now to the key battleground state of Pennsylvania, where Biden now leads Trump by more than 50,000 votes and where the Trump campaign has now filed at least 11 lawsuits since Election Day. Joining us tonight is Josh Shapiro, the Democratic Attorney General of Pennsylvania. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Now, you are, of course, the top law enforcement officer in Pennsylvania. Have you seen any evidence at all of election fraud, and how confident are you that your office is doing everything it can to protect the vote?
We've seen no evidence of any type of widespread election fraud, certainly no evidence of the kinds of things that the president continually tweets about. And I'm very confident, not just in my law enforcement agency, but all of law enforcement here in Pennsylvania, that we will take anything seriously when it comes to election fraud. We've just seen none of it.
Does it appear to you that the Trump campaign is now launching a series of cases to disqualify small numbers of ballots in the hope of closing the vote gap, perhaps a death by 1,000 cuts approach? And could that possibly work?
Well, you're asking me to try to understand the motives behind Donald Trump and his campaign, and I truly don't know what they are. I can tell you that there's a pattern of behavior, which is typically some outrageous claim followed up by a presidential tweet, sometimes followed up by a filing in court, and always followed up by a defeat for them in court when it comes to trying to disqualify legal votes here in Pennsylvania.
Now, there's been controversy over the 10,000 or so Pennsylvania mail-in ballots postmarked on time but received after Election Day. A judge today ruled that those ballots would be rejected if the voter had to provide more identification. Was that a meaningful win for the Trump campaign, and how many votes will now be tossed out?
Well, I think respectfully, it's important that we not conflate two different issues here, which is, again, respectfully, what you did in your question. There are two separate issues here. Number one is there are ballots that were received on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday after the election that were postmarked by Election Day that the state law, based on a reading by our state Supreme Court, said would be valid. Our Secretary of State indicated that those ballots needed to be segregated and counted. And the Supreme Court of the United States, on two separate occasions, refused to step in and overturn the ruling of the state Supreme Court. And in fact, Justice Alito said in his most recent statement that Pennsylvanians need to follow the directive of the Secretary of State, which is to segregate and count those ballots. That's one issue. And that's roughly 9,800, about 9,900 ballots. The second issue, having to do with the litigation that you're referencing from today, has to do with an extremely small number. We don't even have the accurate number yet because today's the final day for that certification, but it's an extremely small number of ballots where you have essentially a first-time voter who's voting by mail who needs to come and provide some identification to ensure that the ballot is valid. And on that, the secretary, the court found, could not grant additional days for the voter to come and provide that identification. So two separate issues. But regardless, you're talking about a very, very small number of ballots that could even potentially be impacted.
Okay, I thank you for that clarification there. Now, 70% of Republicans now say they don't believe the 2020 election was free and fair. That's up from 35% of Republicans who said that before Election Day, according to a recent poll. Why do you think there's so much distrust in the election system and such a big divide between Democrats and Republicans on this issue?
Well, I think the answer is very clear, and that is that President Trump has been working for months to sow doubt in this election process. He's been attacking institutions, attacking the volunteers in our communities across Pennsylvania who are counting these ballots, and trying to make people believe that there's something nefarious going on, when in fact what's going on is an election that's being run by clerks and public servants in our communities who are working very hard to count these ballots and to ultimately certify a result. So that number is disappointing to me. It's sad that people are losing faith in our institutions, but it's directly tied to the president's attacks on our democracy and our system of voting.
Attorney General, we thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.